Hi, everyone. I am Jason Morgan, editor of Fleet Equipment, and welcome to Fleet Equipment Unscripted, the video interview series that connects you with the industry's top minds. Today, I'm talking with Brian Mulshine, Director of Customer Experience at Navistar. Brian, thanks for connecting with us. How are you doing over there? It looks like you're settled in there at home, supporting customers, working well, growing the beard. Love it.
Yeah, no, we're having really it's been amazing. It's even though with the shelter in place order, I live in Illinois. It's we're still on every day, all day long with our customers and our dealers, and it really it's we're leveraging the technology, and I'll tell you, it's I can't tell you a platform we haven't used between Zoom and Skype and WebEx and Teams, and I'll tell you, I think every it's like depends on the customer, but it's been really educational in the beginning and been going really good. Been busy.
For sure. No, I mean, I've experienced the same thing. It's really ramped up the digital adoption and learning curve. Like, you got to do it now, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely.
and that goes into a lot of what we're talking about today. So we're really focusing on overall fleet health, overall equipment health, how to manage that, and some of the tools that we're looking at to keep that in line. And really, we know that fleets are either working harder than ever, or maybe they are furloughed till the economy kicks back in. So we want to make sure that you have a sense of where your trucks are, how they're doing, and when they're ready to roll. So let's kick it off. Just start question. Let's start with those fleets that are working harder than ever, right? Hours of service regulations have been relaxed. We just got an update on that here recently uh, of how they've adapted those. So from your view, what technology should fleets be leveraging overall to keep their trucks running as their duty cycles have changed over the past 8 or 9 weeks?
Thanks for that. Really it's leveraging the tools, and I think there's a number of tools out there. Many manufacturers have different tools, and I'm really proud of what we have with the on-command, advanced health monitor, remote diagnostic system. And with that, it's when we first launched that product, and it's been nearly 7 years ago, and it's been a lot of fun. We have over 4,000 fleets now live, and what it did for us is it helped our customers understand what's going on in their fleet. The very first fleet, I still remember this to this day, I seen had 120 vehicles that had critical faults. And
Okay.
they actually didn't act on them, but they had thousands of trucks. But
Great.
what was interesting is 2 weeks later, they didn't do anything. So I worked with their breakdown center, and they shared with me their breakdowns for the last 2 weeks. And it was 69% of the trucks that broke down on the road. I told them we're going to break down.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. And back then, and this week, I was on a conference call with another large fleet, and they have done some amazing things on implementing our product into their solutions. And I was trying to learn more from them. And they've actually indicated they've seen they had a different way they measure. They actually said they've seen an improvement of 40% in between on-road breakdowns. And it was just a different way. I wasn't used to that, but they said the delta, the improvement was 40% between breakdowns improvement. So they were not measuring the same way I'm used to, but it just told me that really understanding the data, you need to take a look at it. And I'm really excited to. We're working on some things to really make the data more transparent, easier to read, because of you can't just keep giving you and flooding you with data of all the faults. We got to give you something that's easier to read.
Right, right. And so there's two things in there I kind of want to quickly dig into. Clearly, the action, you got to do something, but let's start with the visibility, right? Because you bring up a good point here of visibility. I can see it, and even since On Command has launched, the depth at which I can see it and the ease at which I understand it has evolved over the years, right? You mentioned measuring. Do you have any tips for measuring? What are those key indicators of my overall fleet health, and what should I be looking for? How do I make it important to me if it's that time between breakdowns or if it's reducing overall breakdowns? How do you parse that out?
Really, what you start looking at is everybody puts them into severities, and we're doing a lot of work to work with even our partners of component suppliers to even adjust our severities all the time. And what we need to do is when you get to know your fleet, you'll know how what faults interact with each other. And then the most important things is the ones that are critical. let's take a look at those and talk to the driver, and don't put it out on the road. Now, one other point that is kind of interesting that a lot of people don't know what Navistar does is we have a new term we brought up about a year and a half ago. We call synthetic faults. Okay, synthetic is what it sounds like. It's made up.
Right.
You will not find it in a dictionary. So our on-command portal will actually take the fault code, and if there's multiple faults that we know how to fix it, we'll gray them out and say, use this synthetic fault. We'll tell you, stop, don't even repair or diagnose. It's a calibration update from this component supplier. So don't do anything other than calibrate the engine or transmission.
I see. Right. It speaks to a lot of those. We know that over-the-air updates have been increasingly used by fleets, definitely now, which is probably a good thing to bring up. If you haven't looked into it as a fleet, you probably should. Social distancing and
Exactly.
productivity, that's probably pretty good. But being able to actually change and impact the fault codes based on just those software updates is huge, right?
Exactly. And where we're getting to with our workflow, it's really exciting. We map it all the way down with the Navistar product. We're able to, and we're working to help in the all makes business. We do some, but from a fault code, a customer in our portal can actually take a look at the fault, see the severity, and then also they can drill into, we call a fault code action plan. How do I address it? But then what we've started now is pretty much all of our vehicles and engines now, it actually has the parts probability. And then what it says, the truck is in this city. There are 3 dealers near you, and the probability of the parts, these are the part numbers that fit the truck, and here's where they're at. So you can choose dealer A and B, and you can go to the right place. So but again, it takes time. This is not easy. You got to put this in a workflow. So now what we've done is we've taken a fault and we've taken it all the way to the part number that fits your truck and where is it on the shelf.
Right.
Really.
Right. Yeah. And we've talked a number of times with your Navistar colleagues about how that's continuing to develop, right? PDC openings, plant openings, mapping the potential trucks to those locations so that you can do
parts
those.
Inventory, right? We actually we've changed the dealer stocking levels based on trucks operating in that area.
Right.
And then we actually adjust the parts levels because there's new trucks operating with this transmission or this engine that has this failure rate of this component. We then push inventory to that in-markets area.
Right. Well, and that's a cool example because something that I'll write talk a lot about when we start getting into that almost predictive or prescriptive maintenance kind of idea is the trust with that, right? Like, how do I trust that? As a fleet manager, how do I really trust that? I trust my gut over this data stuff, but if you on your end, you're trusting it enough to move those parts around, that's pretty good proof right there.
Well, yeah, especially with our product we call Dealer Inventory Alliance. We're responsible. We put the part on the shelf. Yeah, the dealer pays it, but if they don't move the part in so long, then we have to pay to ship it back. So there's a benefit to the dealer that we're saying trust us, and we'll back it up. And we'll take it away if you don't use it, but you're going to need it.
I see. Okay. So then from the fleet point of view, moving into that action phase, right, and how I can lean on the service network, OEM dealerships, other repair facilities that might be in your network. What should I expect from them in terms of those conversations, the visibility into my problems, what to communicate? What are some best practices there?
Best practices, it depends on how a fleet operates. And I've seen operations, it could even be a large fleet. Some are centralized and some are decentralized. So the first thing is you have to put the process based on how the fleet operates. If it's a centralized call center, fantastic, right? And you can actually put an on-road breakdown team and have the right people giving notes to the driver and saying, hey, look, you have a problem, let's get this in. And then if you're decentralized, there's some customers, more LTL carriers, they let the manager at the terminal take care of the vehicles and manage it with the dealerships. So those actually are harder to manage. Mm-hmm. So I look at the different fleets and how they operate with different solutions. One example is with our portal, you can actually make the portal refresh every 5 minutes and make a wall display of just critical faults. And say also, if the vehicle enters my geofence around my South Atlanta yard. I can show the truck when it arrives and it has a critical fault. So what we're able to do is see the manager can actually have something on the screen in their office of trucks arriving home at night with critical faults. And that would be for more of an LTL carrier that has decentralized strategy with terminals. But if you're a call center with a larger, fleet, then you're looking at the data, reviewing it, downloading reports, bringing it into their own native system. It depends.
Right. Right. Well, and I imagine, even just speculating here based on how you and I are talking and we're at home, right? Operations, they've just been disrupted. People might be all over the place. While it was beneficial to have that information while you're sitting in the office, it's almost necessary now when you're sitting at home or you're sitting in the office, but the people you're working with are not, right?
Well, and the other one is, even I think about the smaller customers, that really is important to us as well. There's a lot of smaller customers out there, and between our dealers and the customer having the ability, because even our systems still have very similar tools for a small customer, but then the dealership, the service advisor, while your truck is driving, you can ask the dealership, take a look at the truck, and they can see the information from the service counter before the truck arrives. So.
For sure. So, and one last thing here. So I think maybe a lot of fleets hopefully are looking at those kind of things. We had the ELD mandate, which kind of thrust data right in their face, and everybody it was frustrating, but now they all have it, right? And during the times where we're really challenging right now, it can be a difference maker. But you mentioned your team is still working every day, still plugged in. The idea that they don't have to do it alone. I don't know how this stuff works either. That's why I call you, right? So they should be able to call you as well, work through it.
Oh no, we're actually, our team. We got a team that we have about 7 people that anytime that any customer needs help, a lot of people either hit me on LinkedIn or hit the dealership, and say, hey, look, I'd like to get a one-on-one demo. We'll gladly do that for any customer. We do that every day. I've done 2 already this morning, and I know other people have in my team as well.
Right. No, for sure. Nice to get a refresher if you're already using it, or maybe even an advanced course, right? To see how you could take it to the next level.
Exactly. Well, what's even more important to me is not for me telling them how we do it, but they telling me what they need. And every enhancement we've made, they've come back to me saying, can you add this, this, and this? And so sometimes people complain that your portal's always changing. And it's yes, because we're listening. We have to listen and understand and deliver. And it's really a lot of fun because I learn more from meeting a customer than I'm giving. So it's a lot of fun.
Right, for sure. I mean, it's the same way they work in the hardware rolling, right? And the specs change, the trucks change. You got to communicate. Same thing now with the digital tools, for sure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Very great, Brian. It's been a pleasure talking with you. I could talk your ear off all day on the telematics stuff. So I'll let you get back to work supporting customers. I appreciate you taking the time. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.